Hello, guys. Kimi Katiti here. I just wanted to bring a live stream today to talk about what to do immediately after being canceled. I feel like cancel culture has come up again as a topic of interest, surrounding so many factors. I know a lot of people have been talking about Kyrie Irving, which that situation I'm not really going to dive into. A lot of people have been canceled in the past. We've seen the rise of it in the last few years with the rise of social media, especially social media being such an influencing force. So, I wanted to talk about cancellation, what it really means to be canceled with, good conviction, being canceled for the right reasons and being canceled for the wrong reasons. And I want to talk about what to do immediately after you stand up for those convictions that you hold dear. I think it's important for people to speak the truth. I think it's important to let out what you're holding inside, especially if you think it's going to benefit people. It's sort of like delivering that truth in love that we all need. So I'm just going to quickly, briefly slide through a couple of points that I want to bring up before we talk about what to do immediately after being canceled. Um, Now, cancel culture doesn't really affect a lot of people. It mostly affects, um, I would say, people who seek to inspire influence. I would say the version of that for people who are not seeking influence would be doxing or just straight up having someone force an employee out of a job or being ostracized from your friend group. Cancellation can happen to the high and mighty, influencers, social media figures, celebrities, sports figures. It could happen to the average person. But what exactly is cancel culture? So I drew up a bunch of definitions from Merriam-Webster. So let's go through them just to get a defining point of what we are talking about. Cancel culture, the practice or tendency of engaging in mass canceling as a way of expressing disapproval and exerting social pressure. For those of you who aren't aware, cancel culture refers to the mass withdrawal of support from public figures or celebrities who have done things that aren't socially accepted today. Keep in mind that social acceptance because I will touch on that a little bit later. This practice of canceling or mass shaming often occurs on social media platforms such as Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook. Demetria Slit. And feel free to pause that if you want to read the rest of the definitions. But I'm kind of just going to operate on the first sentence, and also the fact that it is a social deviance in a sense. So, cancel culture is really a problem today because of the prevalence of social media. Again, this is kind of Captain Obvious for anyone who is awake and the fact that you're on this live stream. Social media is a part of your life. It wouldn't have as much sway as it does now if it was about maybe 2005 or, maybe 1999. But the fact that we operate so much of our lives on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, and therefore we put a lot of weight and perhaps a lot of networking and professional connections are maintained through social media, the risk that cancel culture imposes is kind of greater in that sense. So, really, because of social media, influence is a lot easier now. Social media metrics carry a lot of weight now. So, because of um, the networks that you connect to each other, you intertwine. If you say one wrong thing, people in your network can get that to everyone in a matter of seconds to let you know how you have socially deviated. Um, and that could result in, your boss seeing what you said, your friends seeing what you said, your family being affected by it. These are kind of Captain Obvious statements, but I just want to lay the groundwork of what exactly is hurtful with cancel culture. Going a little bit deeper, we need to talk about why people feel the need to risk cancellation. Um, and let me just slow down for a bit. A lot of people uh, are willing to take a jump, take a leap, and say things that they know are gonna step on people's toes. Um, but not everything that is said just because it is deviating from social norms is necessarily good. Not 100% of the time. So, in a sense, we have to know what exactly is bothering us, and is this bothering sense, like, is this thing that's nagging at us, like really getting us worked up, really getting us bothered, is it worth saying, is it worth putting out? And how do we figure out if what's irritating us is good, is gonna better the people, is gonna better our social circles, or harm them? And of course, I'm using harm in kind of a facetious way, because now we have definitions of harm that don't quite make sense. We need to figure out what is bothering us first before we take the leap into cancellation. And so personally, I have an operating system. I want to give credit to my friend Will Roosh, who helped me put this into perspective. But I feel like we need an operating system to understand what is right, what is wrong, is what I'm saying, is what I'm going to put forth, is what is the thing that I'm about to speak going to benefit people or cause society to slowly slip away from a standard. That operating system for me personally is my Christian faith. And this is why I highly recommend Mere Christianity by C.S. Lewis. But you need an operating system to kind of give you um, a moral groundwork. So if you struggle with defining what it is that specifically bothers you, you might need to do some deep searching. If you struggle defining what is bad or good, it might be time to get a little philosophical, or dare I say, religious. A philosophical and religious introspection might be necessary before you unleash what you're trying to say. For me, Mere Christianity helps me understand why I feel like I have to say something at times, regardless of the consequence, is because I have a very strong moral conviction from my operating system, which is Christianity. Um, and so, how do you test your operating system? Is it just merely an identity that has been latched onto you? Can you say that your politics is your operating system? Well, let's take a quick test. This is what I use to gauge whether my beliefs at a time are concrete, are timeless. I ask myself, if I was in a different country, would I say what I have to say? If I was in a different time period, would I say the thing that's bothering me? Would I say what I have to say? If I was in a different economic bracket, different gender, different ethnicity, do my values hold regardless of all these factors? Are they universal, and are they timeless? Do they hold up against time and space? So, this is why you want to have something that you know, regardless of where you are, regardless of what time period, you would believe them and you would stand firm to say what you need to say. Um, so, that is how I kind of check to see what operating system I am using in order to give me the moral conviction to say what I have to say and determine whether it is a bad thing or a good thing. And this is the problem, at least as far as I've rooted it. This is the problem with identifying with politics. Politics are geographically limited and specific to a time period. The political arena capitalizes on tribal mentality, which fuels groupthink and sustains echo chambers. So it's all about maintaining that groupthink, maintaining what holds us together as a group, as a collective. Political leaders often utilize us versus them mentality. They create an existential threat of the other side, and this could lead to catastrophization, which, as defined by Merriam Webster, it is to imagine the worst possible outcome of an action or event, to think about a situation or event as being a catastrophe or having a potentially catastrophic outcome. And I think when you root your operating system in your politics, it can be a bit hard, because if you do deviate, and you find something that goes against the group, you will face a sort of ostracization. It's not timeless, it's not universal. So here's a little column I put together to kind of help you differentiate your political identity from your operating system. Your personal operating system, it's universal and timeless. Inspires personal conviction, research, and inquiry. It encourages individual accountability and morality. Whereas your political identity It's geographically limited and specific to a time period. It inspires tribalism, us versus them groupthink, which could lead to catastrophization. And it encourages party conformity, which punishes dissent with alienation. So that's like how I kind of divide. Okay, is what I'm saying just for the moment? Is it, am I risking cancellation just so that I could fit in with a group? Or am I saying what I need to say because I really stand on this and this is my personal moral conviction based off of my operating system? So let your operating system inform all else. Let it inform the policies that you vote for. Let it inform everything else that you're willing to risk a lot to say. Um, so because we've laid that groundwork of having that moral conviction, we need to be careful about seeking cancellation just for the sake of riling people up. You are surrounded, every one of us are surrounded in a social circle. Um, let's just call this a social organization. You have the people you see at school, you have the people you see at work, you have all sorts of groups, all sorts of folks coming together. And uh, eventually, everyone's going to influence everyone else into a direction of thinking, and sometimes this herd mentality will lead people to start normalizing things that could be harmful to them in the long run. So, are you seeking cancellation? Are you willing to get canceled to say something that's going to lead people to transgress against the moral standards of that operating system? Or are you going to influence people to deviate from that herd mentality in order to get them back on track? I think that's an important distinction to make, because when we talk about like Harvey Weinstein, for example, um, I think it was kind of important that he was demoted in a sense because he was using his position for wrong. He was using his position to say, look, guys, this is normal. Taking advantage of innocent women is normal. And I think to some extent, we can't just rally and defend that. We have to really have a sense of right and wrong. So we're going to get to discussing and breaking down what happens after that. Um so I want to give you a little bit of a 3-month runway. If you think what the thing that's bothering you is definitely worth saying and it is going to cause um a sort of redirection of social thinking, social organization, to get back on track to a positive value, to a healthy value, to a value that's going to help us be better, then you're willing to risk things to say this. This is the 3-month runway I would recommend prior to saying what you need to say or putting your truth out there. And I will quote that your truth thing because I'm trying to be open minded here, but there's a whole debate about truth. Anyway, getting back on track. 3-month runway. I highly recommend building a strong physical activity community. So you want to have friends that you gather with to do something that's unrelated to your politics, it's unrelated to your even religion. It's just you bond over something physical. You're going to talk about that physical activity. You're going to detach yourself from the sphere of media, Twitter, social media, all of that. Build that strong community. Maybe that's picking up a sport like running or jujitsu, or even just having like a board game community like D&D or Cyberpunk or something like that. A video game community, perhaps, even though it's not quite physical activity. Build that strong community that is detached from social media, where you can go outside, where you can exert physical energy, and you know your talking points are not going to be as heady as they are with other circles. Have in person conversations with people that you know, perhaps family members, close friends who hold opposing views, and seek disconfirmation from those trusted sources. So, say you have a friend, and imagine we're kind of going back to 2020, the summer of 2020, and you have a friend who is passionate about the cause of Black Lives Matter, and you're trying to work through, well, I have these convictions and I'm questioning if this is the best approach towards racial reconciliation. What do? You get that close friend, might be a family member. Try your best to approach the situation with grace, and ask them, what is it that drives you? What is it that motivates you? Why do you believe in this cause so much? Really have the heart to do that, instead of seeking confirmation and just scrolling through social media and only looking at accounts that you agree with, that confirm this thing that's bothering you. Like, that's good, but also go out of your way to get that disconfirmation, especially from trusted friends that you know, you're able to confide in. And then read disconfirming material that they refer to you. So that might be, the crazy books. Like, for example, if this was the summer of 2020 and they're like, you know what, I really want you to read White Fragility. I really want you to read how to be an anti-racist. Then go ahead and read that, like 3 months ahead of saying what you need to say. Like, really plan it, really seek this confirmation, and that way, if there is something to to pinpoint and say, this is wrong, I really do not agree with that, you're able to point to that. That's something that I personally actually went through in 2020, and I absolutely um talked to personal friends. I really wanted to make sure the feelings that I had about whether it was wokeness, the feelings that I had about the approaches taken in the summer of 2020 to protest, I really wanted to make sure that those were solid. And so this is kind of what I went through. I skate with friends as well. Um, I'm happy to say I still maintain a lot of skate friendships, or although, there's been a little bit of separation in different groups, but that absolutely helped. Hey, Takarika, what's up? Welcome, friend. So you want to have this thing solid. You want to have this like this down to a T before you say what you need to say, especially checking to see that what you're saying is going to lead people to a better way of life, instead of just promoting things that are harmful, promoting things that are against your values. And then we're going to talk about what to do the moment you say what you need to say. So I left this one kind of open ended, because if you're watching and you have recommendations, feel free to drop comments for what to do immediately after being canceled. But I want to talk about what to do with the very first 24 hours. So you might choose to say what you need to say through social media. You might be like, I just want to quickly make a post. Or you might just be like, you know what? I'm going to follow the accounts I need to follow. It might be having a conversation at your workplace, deciding to be like, do you know what? Today I'm going to talk to my boss about certain values that are being promoted in the workplace that I don't quite agree with. Whatever it is that you choose, there's going to be the moment it happens, and there's going to be the immediate 24 hours after that. So, what I personally did, one of the first videos I put on YouTube was This Is Why I Hate Critical Race Theory. One of the first opinion videos I uploaded. I've had my channel for about 10 years now. Um, I scheduled that video. I posted it, I made it like at 11 p.m. I was cooking at the time, which is why my timer went off in the middle of that video. If you haven't seen it, it's titled This Is Why I Hate Critical Race Theory. And of course, like, there's a lot of, it was just a video where I was ranting my thoughts. So there's a lot of things that people pushed back on, which I can say, like, it's fair. Like, I got a lot of fair criticism for that, but I just needed to say what that thing that was bothering me, that I felt was leading people in the wrong direction. And I thought I could offer something that would help just add to sort of snowball of going back to the right direction, being redirected towards a more healthy society. So I scheduled that video, and I did not look at it the whole day. So the first thing I would absolutely recommend is to unplug from social media. And what you need to do is definitely go back to that first point. Go back to your strong physical activity community and stay plugged into that for as long as you need to. Um, the why, because if you don't, if your whole world revolves your colleagues at work, your whole world revolves around your social media network, then you're going to be in trouble. You're going to feel the pain of that backlash, and you actually don't have to absorb that backlash. You can simply move away from it. So first 24 hours, delete all the apps, schedule what you need to say, put it out there, whether it's a YouTube video, put it out there, schedule it for like 6 a.m., and just do not look at it for the first 24 hours. I would even recommend first 48 hours. Leave it alone. Go for a walk, go running. It's time to set a new PR. Go to the gym where you're in a if you're in a like a group-based gym, it's time to focus on your next hurdles. If it's skateboarding, you're going to just focus for the next week on learning a new trick. You do not want to engage in any of these online debates. The reason I say 24 hours is you're probably going to receive the most meaningful feedback from personal text messages or phone calls or people who actually love you that want to have a conversation with you. They will reach out to you because they care. If someone does not care about you, they'll drop a comment, they'll drop an aggressive DM, probably block you. And guess what? You did not need those people because they weren't really there for you and they weren't going to have your back anyway. So you want to just watch out for the people who will be in your life. And you definitely need to reach out to people as well. Again, that strong physical activity community. Go out for coffee, go and plan more like group based activity dates. Like, you definitely need to find ways to be outside of your immediate like work or social media circles. And then I would actively highly recommend, if you are someone who has a strong operating system, for example, you're a Christian, and you're getting plugged into your church, perhaps that's a strong like community that you have to show up for physically. Get rooted in that. The first week, if you drop what you have to drop on Monday, you do not look at social media until that Sunday where you get fed, where you get filled with a good word from your pastor and you meet up with your church friends. And if there are things that happen, like repercussions, like the loss of a job or anything, that's the time to get prayer. That's the time to get community help. I would highly recommend that. That's at least from my perspective. Another thing that I would say is start taking notes of the feed. Like, once you have that week of isolating yourself from social media and you have received people who come into your life and say things that are meaningful, take note of the helpful criticism. If someone says, you know what, I disagree with what you said there, but I agree with this, take note of that disagreement and build on it. Build on it, maybe follow up what you have to say on the helpful criticism. If what you're saying is checked and it actually goes against your moral compass, it goes against your operating system, then you definitely want to clarify that for the next iteration. I would say don't run away. Just don't just drop the bomb and like delete social media forever. Like, be there to help people understand what you said a little bit further, but after a while from that initial dropping of the message. Um, Thank you so much, anyone who's tuning in. I really appreciate the kind comments. But I also just want to say, you definitely want to follow up and make sure it is in alignment with your moral compass. If there are people, and this is the most surprising thing, the next thing is that you're going to have about more support than hatred for the things that you stand up, especially if they're meaningful and they help people get back on the right track. So you want to actually be there for the people who are also going to find their legs. So about 2 weeks out from that moment of saying what you need to say, be there for the people who want to have the strength to say what they have to say. Um, Let them know what happened to you immediately after, but be ready for the fear. That's another point, is embrace that fear. Do not wait for things to be perfect. If it is a sense of urgency, you kind of have to just step into it afraid. And that's another thing. Bravery is it's on my heart heavy. I think we need to embrace that right now. But be there for the other people who are inspired by what you say. About 2 weeks in, grab a coffee with them, encourage them, let them know, like, you know what, I took the leap and I did not die. I might have suffered some backlash, but I believe what I had to say so strongly that I was ready for it. And if you want to help people get back on the right path, help other people find their voice, encourage them, get them out to coffee, go outdoors as much as possible. I cannot emphasize that enough. Do not be cooped up in your phone responding to comments. Never respond to comments, actually, especially that first month. If you say what you need to say, just leave the comments alone. Leave them alone. You do not need to respond to any comments. Only talk to the people that you know. And then down the line, maybe a month out, 2 months out, you might have a greater understanding of what it is you need to respond to if necessary. So I don't want to let this go too long, but that is kind of what I do immediately after being canceled. I feel like I constantly fall into cycles of saying things that upset people, but I really want to speak from my moral campus in order to make sure that I'm not holding things inside. I believe that's very unhealthy. And I think it's absolutely necessary that we're able to get that truth out, say what we mean, and have the strength to endure the consequences. But before you know it, all of that adds up with different voices, different people, different thoughts, adds up to steering social organization in a more positive direction, such that we don't need to risk things, risk our livelihoods, risk our well being, in order to say what needs to be said. I love you guys. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you have a fantastic Friday. We thank the Lord, and I'll see you very soon. Have a great one, and bye bye.